Hey, welcome to Project Beats. If you are new, my name is Joven. Today I'll be showing you my third version of the 3-zone ride build. It's not an official build version number. I just like to keep track on the different builds I made in this channel so far. Just to refresh, version 1 is a lot more manual build. I used Merc percussion membrane, which is what I know at the time. That took a lot of work to put together, but I think it's the ideal setup where bell and edge are both using membrane. For version 2, it was all GoEdrum parts. It's a lot more convenient to set up, but there were some issues with the bell since it used piezo and there was some drilling involved. So, not the most convenient, but it was easier. For version 3, we are using an updated trigger box. Still piezo bell trigger, but all the parts work well together. Plus everything is hidden underneath. So it's more of a stealth setup. Plus, no more drilling. All you need are a screwdriver and pliers. I'll talk more about the setup in a bit. For now, let me take you through the build process. Who's that? Overall build time is about 5 to 10 minutes. It's very easy to build. Price for the parts is about 80 USD for the 180-degree setup. Plus, of course, your shipping. Before I give you my final thoughts and verdict, here are some playing examples. And these are the GoEdrum's recommended settings. I'm still playing around with the settings because I am getting some bell sounds sometimes when I hit the edge and crash hard enough. But I'm guessing that has to do with the bell being a piezo and not a membrane, which would be ideal, albeit cumbersome to build and set up. And this is my current setup, which is not final as I'm still tweaking it here and there. I have been using it for a couple weeks and I'm very happy with the performance for this type of build. To be honest, it's not as consistent and accurate as a good mid to pro level rubber cymbal, but it does the job very well for the kind of setup that it is. Plus, I like the look a lot. The edge and rubber strip really need to adhere to the cymbal bottom, otherwise the effectivity will be inconsistent. There have been some reports about it detaching after a while, but I have yet to encounter that, and I treat this kit as an acoustic drums, and I play very hard, and it's still on there. And so far, no issues with the edge triggering. Let's talk about performance. For the bell, it's way better than before. They have done a good job with their 3-zone trigger box update, and it's working well with the piezo bell trigger. I am still using the same bell trigger from the version 2 build. I only updated the trigger box and replaced the edge membrane. If you're buying now all of their 3-zone trigger boxes, in their eBay store have been updated, just to clear it up. So when I play the bell with acoustic cymbals, I like to use the shoulder of the sticks or the body of the stick. This gives me a bigger and more pronounced bell sound. For this setup, you need a bit of strength to trigger that bell. So for me, this technique works well. The bell is not 360, although you can achieve 360 bell triggering if you hit it hard enough, depending on your settings. For placement, I put the bell trigger exactly underneath where I hit the bell. So that will be right under here. Just a side note, GoEdrum also sells 10-inch bell membrane. You can put it over here on top, which is the ideal placement. But you have to work on the bill to cover it up, so it's a lot more work. Just putting it out there if somebody needs that info. For the edge membrane, I was actually a little bit skeptical that this would work, but I was pleasantly surprised of its performance. The secret here is their underside rubber strip for the edge membrane. But direct comparison in terms of sensitivity, membrane on top will be more sensitive. Even with subtle hits, you will get edge crash sound easily. But with the underside setup, you would have to exert a little more effort to trigger that edge crash sound. Having said that, there's still an optimum spot to easily trigger that crash sound, which is around this area right here. So this is the trigger box right here. My bell is right here. Optimum edge crash sound will be here. Okay. And then outside here, you would exert a little more effort to get that crash sound. Also, since the bell trigger is right here, for some reason, if you hit loud enough around this area, you can get that bell sound, bell trigger. You could get 360-degree edge in this setup, but the sensitivity dips down the farther you go from the trigger box. So in this setup, this is the trigger box. If you hit the edge membrane right here, it's almost none from this far back. So I still think the 180-degree setup makes more sense versus the 360. Plus, you save a bit more money. Although I haven't personally tried the 360 with the new setup, I'll still probably stick to this setup anyway. Some cons for me would be, number one, it's not exactly plug and play, unlike when you are buying first-party E-Cymbal, which in my case would be Roland, since I'm using a Roland module. With that, you won't really need to fiddle around the settings. It's just plug and play. Here, you would have to dial in the settings to get it to perform its best. Second, there's a random bell trigger at times when you hit the edge at a certain place or at a certain level. Personally, it doesn't bother me that much. I just thought I'd let you know. This can probably be fixed by dialing in the settings, and at the moment, I'm getting much less of that with the settings I'm using. It may still vary from user to user, so you'd have to find the setting that works best for you. Third is, since the edge membrane isn't as sensitive as top-mounted edge membrane, it's hard to get a nice cymbal swell from it, which can be a deal breaker for some. So for me, this setup is good for the ride at least, where I don't really need to do that. Plus, I have 2 extra crash anyway, so I can do the swell from there. Don't mind this one. This is for my acoustic recording setup. Okay, who is this setup for? If you already have a low volume cymbal and you are thinking of doing A to E conversion and you don't mind the cons that I just mentioned, then this build is the easiest and most convenient conversion so far. If you think my version 2 build is better for you, it has some extra steps of cutting down a rubber trim and gluing it together and a bit of drilling. But if you're alright with all that, then I will link it down below. I would say either version 2 or 3 is better than going for cheaper entry-level rubber cymbals if set up properly, and would be easy to fix in case something breaks. But if you are starting from scratch, you could still save some cash doing it yourself than buying pre-made low-volume E-Cymbals. Unless, of course, they have some special tech and really develop their E-Cymbals, I would think all of them are the same. For two-zone build, it is the same build. Just get a two-zone trigger box, underside rubber strip, and edge membrane, you're good to go. But if you like a more reliable and more consistent E-Cymbals for professional setting, performance, streaming, videos, and whatnot, the next step up is a quality mid to higher end rubber E-Cymbals. For me personally, I would keep this setup for a while. I like how it's performing, and for my needs, which is mainly quiet practice, not to mention the sizes of these E-Cymbals are really close to my acoustic ones. This is an overall win. Plus, I like the look that this has. This video is not sponsored, by the way. I paid for all the parts that I got, but thanks to GoEdrum for making it easier for the community. As for the questions I got recently, I think I have answered all of it in the comments, but I think I've missed one. Let me just read it. Mr. Pumps, did you do anything to stop or soften the vibration of the low volume cymbals? Alright, so for extra dampening, I didn't do any extra other than this rubber trims that you can see right here. By the way, these are my recommended rubber trims. These are like coming from a hardware store from a metal supply. So these trims are longer lasting and they are more resilient to hard hits compared to the soft rubber ones that GoEdrum sells. But for this stealth setup, that rubber strip at the bottom is all you need basically. That is really heavy. It's heavier compared to this one. And for this one, I didn't add anything else. This is all the damping. I didn't add extra damping to the cymbals. It works great. Alright, that's it from me. All the links will be down in the description below. Thank you for watching and thank you for supporting this channel. Please consider subscribing and dropping a like on this video. It helps out a lot. I have a couple more eDrum build videos lined up, so don't miss it, and see you in the next project.